Now, a lot of these things, these figures will change depending on the industry, but once you start tracking these figures, you'll see what the trend is in your industry. So you might find that it might be, I don't know, it might be, £100 to get a customer. It might be £200 to get a customer. Welcome everybody to another Outside Crowd podcast. Delighted to be here, and it's a perfect duo this evening. It's myself and Ryan.
Yo!
Whoa! So Billy is off swanning himself in Australia, so he should be back soon, probably having a good time. So me and Ryan are going to be having a chat about slightly spring related things. Well, Ryan's tips are going to be more spring related than mine. I'm going to try and make them sound a bit springish, but we'll see. But what we're going to do is each of us are going to talk about various things that tips that you can think about for given the current time of the year. So stop me waffling. First thing is Ryan. Over to you.
Yeah, so I mean, the things that I've been thinking about in the garden this time of year. I mean, we've had some fantastic weather for the last couple of weeks. God, it's been fantastic. I think only today, or last night even. Sorry, we got some rain, which was good because it is definitely needed. But we have been blessed with the sunshine. So everyone's out in the garden, everyone's getting bits done, and the phone's ringing off the hook, which is great. But it just kind of got me thinking about the what things we want to be doing in the garden this time of year, and it's like, first of all, it's having that spring clean, isn't it? Having that spring clean, getting the areas of the garden that have been a little bit neglected over the winter, getting them cleared out, and getting the sweeping done, get that all sorted, and then give everything a good jet wash, give them a good clean.
Yeah, don't talk about jet washing.
You're not done yours yet.
Partly half-arsed effort to get it done. But... So what do you use for jet washing to get all the shit off?
Well, I would...
That's a technical term, by the way.
That is, all the shit off. Yeah, I think you buy a product for that. So a pressure hose, jet wash, using pressure water on your patio. So, I mean, for me, it'd be using a good stiff broom, agitate the surface, wetting the surface down, agitate the surface, and then cleaning it off with a jet wash. I would say also, lifting the big pots that you have, if you have big pots on your patio or your decking, taking them, removing them off. They might want to go on some stands, because they do create marks on your patio, and if you do have them marks, there's products out there. LTP have some good products to lift and remove stains and stuff like that.
Right, so that's a good cleaner you can use, because my stuff always gets like stained, and it's
yeah.
And then seal it afterwards.
Absolutely. I'd give a good clean, making sure your pointing or your grouting was okay and up to scratch, and then what I would do is give it a seal. Give it a good seal, 2 coats of sealer over the top, whether it's a matte finish or a colour enhancer, depending on your type of stone. And doing that.
And if you don't want to do it, you can call in a reliable landscaper.
That's right.
Do you know any?
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, the thing is, the before you do any of your jet washing, I think I should have started with this, is check your drainage. That is one thing that is my little peeve, is make sure before you start your cleaning and getting all that done, is get your ACO channels popped up, get in there, take all the debris that's gone in there, empty those out, give everything a good clean, all your drainage before you do your jet washing. Because there's nothing worse than trying to clean and having a big puddle of muddy water sitting there and it can't go into the drain because it just has leaves over the top of it. So,
right, good stuff. Right, top tip number 1. Right, my top tips. I'm going to talk about marketing, and specifically marketing stats, and how am I going to make them related to spring. Well, if it comes to the end of the financial year, you might want to start recording your stats from a nice this could be a nice starting point. That's a bit of a waffly way of getting it in, isn't it? But you can basically start your stats at any point, any time during the year. But I would say everyone has to get work. So whatever you're doing some marketing in some form. So you need to keep stats to see what you're actually doing. And I've always been the one that if you want to make decisions about your business, the best way to make decisions about your business is based on factual data. Now, unless you keep any factual data, you've got nothing to make those business decisions base them on. So keep marketing stats, and what we'll do is we'll go through what those stats are, what the basic ones are that you should keep, because they just really allow you to identify what works, what doesn't work. It allows you to test scenarios, so you could do things like an email campaign, send out a load of email or send out an email, check the results for those, and then you send out another campaign, check the results for those, and you can see what type of campaigns get more leads, get you more quotes, and which are more successful, which get more engagement.
Yeah.
So, and once you know that, then if you know something that's good and works, you can then double down on it as much as possible. If certain types of emails work better, then you can just keep doing it, and then until the success rate starts to drop. So it allows you to identify what works, what's good, what's bad, what's successful, and it also makes your marketing spend more efficient. So that's why you should always keep marketing stats. If you don't, you are pissing in the wind, basically, and you can't make a effective business decision on how you spend your marketing budget.
And that could be as simple as the sticking it onto the quotation schedule, right?
Yes.
So as it comes in, phone call, email, whatever. And once that goes onto the quotation schedule, you've got.
That's the starting point for things. So if you've got a quotation schedule, if someone comes on there and they want to quote, where have they come from? Where they got your details from? And it's interesting. Then you can see which ones are the most popular ways in which you're getting clients, and then that will then influence how you spend your marketing budget. But we'll come onto those in the next tip. But I will hand over to Ryan for his next springtime. Gardening tip.
I'll tell you what, next springtime tip that I've been thinking about is when you're in your garden, grab yourself a chair on a nice evening and pull the chair around the garden and sit in different areas of the garden, looking back at the house, looking back at a flower bed. Sit in different parts of the garden, different aspects, and really get a feel of if you want or need a change, in the garden. Because a lot of the times it's the same seat every year, same place every year. Yes, I understand the sun goes there, and but it might be a different time of the day. Job might have changed.
Yeah.
Your hours might differ, and things might be a little bit different. So when the sun is shining in that far corner in the garden, grab a chair, go sit there and see what it looks like from that area of the garden. It's kind of using all of your space.
Definitely, because I imagine we're creatures of habit, and we tend to stick in one place without thinking of other parts of the garden in which we could go and how we could use it. Which I imagine when you go and see clients to quote, you can then give them. You probably see the garden in a different way from what they do.
It's yes, and yes, we see the garden in a different way, but we also look at the detail. Because majority of the time it is, well, when I'm looking out of my window, I'm going to be looking at this, and it's like, yes, absolutely. But there's a seating area right at the bottom of the garden, or there might be the shed that the husband gets kicked out of the house and has to spend some time in. But so it's the view that from there looking back. So it makes a big difference when I did it myself. I was working out the garden the other weekend, and I think I had the wheelbarrow. The dog was there, and I pulled the wheelbarrow up to the corner, sat in the wheelbarrow for a little bit, and I was just sitting there going, I haven't seen the garden this side. I haven't. It's like, wow, this is different. So it's, and once you do that, you can have a look at the shapes and differences. It's Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's very valuable. People, just usually sit in the same place, so
Yeah.
get a different perspective on your garden, and then that will probably help if you want work done.
Yeah.
Then it'll start to give you some different ideas. And also, I suppose if things like Bill was here, he'd probably be saying like things like trees might have grown up, might be affecting things like
Yeah, that's true.
bushes, might be affecting light,
That's
stuff
true.
like that, and what needs to be done.
That's true.
Right, okay. What have we got?
Number
More
2 for you.
marketing stats. Okay. So, if you've got to keep marketing stats, what are some of the key ones that you want to keep? So, I've got a few down here, or the first tranche of them. I'll say the first one I've got down here is you want to be able to record your total marketing spend. So, basically anything you spend that's going to help you get sales, leads, quotations, anything like that, branding. So that might be software, it might be admin time spent on marketing, going round to quote on jobs, things like that. Anything that's to do with getting work up until the point where you've effectively got a signed contract where you can start and the job's in the bank.
Yeah.
So anything there is effectively what you are spending to get a customer.
Yeah.
So you need to have your software. If you're doing Google ads, you need to have that, that amount built in. So keep all of that. And ideally, you might want to be looking, I know rules of thumb figures, you might want to be looking around about 8 to 10% of your turnover should be devoted towards marketing. Now that's just a rough rule of thumb, and different industries will have different figures. But start to devote a reasonable amount of your money towards marketing, because ultimately that's the bit that's going to bring you your work. And if you're not doing enough of it, you won't be getting enough work.
That's interesting as well, because I've the quoting process, the quoting times of things. I think I've said before on the podcast that there's more now. I believe there's so many products, so many different ideas, so many different things that I feel that it should take 1 or 2 visits to really get that. So it does take a lot of time to do that. So and that's before you get the job across the line.
Yeah.
So once that job's across the line, then you do it. You've got your timesheets that or you're allocating your time towards that. But there isn't majority of the time it gets put down to office hours or admin. So realistically, there isn't a true figure of how long it's taken you to do all these things, the phone calls, the emails, the things like that. Because I think to look at that and not have that 8 to 10% in it, and have a look at your final end of year, it'd be really interesting to see what it actually took.
Is, yeah. And the only way you can make that as accurate as possible is once again how you record your time.
Love a time sheet.
I mean,
I know.
I don't want to go on about time sheets again. But anyway, right. So you've got your total marketing spend. The other one you want to record is your number of your essentially qualified leads. Because a lead is effectively someone you can contact who will have some sort of interest or knowledge of your company. That's the first thing that comes to you. So you want to get as many leads in from as many different sources as possible. And that could be things like from, Google ads. People could be, referrals. You could be advertising. You could be brochures, mail outs, anything like that, email campaigns. You want to record how many people actually... how many leads come through to you as a result of your marketing activities. So at that point, all they are is potentially as a prospect. So you might then find that you've got each month, you might have 1,000 leads, you might have 200, whatever. But it's the first part of your sales pipeline is to get a lead, and then what you want to do is through that pipeline convert those leads into the various stages, and the obvious ones is getting a lead, getting them to want to then have a quote, because not all the leads will want to have quotes. And then once you've done a quote, you've got to be able to convert that quote into a winning job.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to track then your number of qualified leads, then how many quotations you get from each of those leads, and then how many jobs won. And what you can start to then do is track the percentages against each. So what's your percentage of quotes derived from the numbers of leads you get? So you might get 100 leads, and from that you get 10 quotes. So you can work out your percentage there. And then from your 10 quotes, you might get one job won. So you've got your 10% win ratio or percentage there. But once you've got those stats, you can then start to see, okay, what can we do to improve them? What are we doing now? How much is it costing us? And what can we do to actually improve those figures? Unless you've got those figures, if you don't have them, then you are just really guessing as to what is actually working and what isn't working.
Because I guess you can then look at like you said, the 10% win rate. You can look at the ones you did win, and you can take an educated guess of why you won those ones, and compare them to ones you didn't. So you've that straight away you've got information. Well, this is like you said, facts. This is a fact. We won that job. We didn't win them 9. What's the difference between that job and these ones? Because I guess you can look at it in a couple of different ways. One of them is that the kind of client you're looking for?
Yep.
Is it the kind of material that there's so many different things, and I think you've really woken me up to that, JB, of like that mindset of thinking like that, because it's once you have the information in front of you, you can then it's clear. It's not you look at it and go, we didn't win them 9, we won that one. Oh, we won that one because of X.
Because of X, well, yeah.
And it's whether it's a referral, whether it's a whatever.
Yeah.
And it's so many things open up from that, and you're not just going from one job to the next. You're actually then putting some marketing towards.
That's it. You're trying to do it from a bit of a statistical basis, and that helps your decision making. But so those I'd say are the first sort of 4 key figures you get. Starting off with leads, because then you can, within the number of leads you get, you could then break them down. Well, how many leads would you get from emails? How many do we get from referrals? How many do we get from Google Ads? And then you can start to see which area is more effective, and then also how much it's costing you to get those numbers of leads as well. So, because if you're thinking about it, if you're struggling for work and your marketing spend is, I don't know, £20,000 a year, and it's giving you 20,000 leads, if you think about it, if you doubled your marketing spend, in theory, you could be doubling the number of leads and doubling the amount of work you get. Mm-hmm. So you start to make decisions like that. But anyway, I'll come on to a few others after I hand over to
it's me again.
Mr. Murphy.
Right, here we go. Okay. So we were talking about sitting in different places in the garden and changing different aspects, having a look at different aspects. And I guess from there, it's one of the simple tips this year is edging the lawn. Is that's a job that needs to be done here. Edging your lawn with a very sharp graft or a spade, as it were, would be really to find the lines between the grass and your flower beds. But that also means that, say, for example, the shrubs have gone a bit wider, then it's widening out one place, or there's a shrub that's been taken out and removed and you want to actually pull in the flower bed in that area. There's nothing wrong with taking your spade, cutting your edge a wee bit wider in one area, putting that turf from that area into the pot. So you're completely changing something very simple that you can do at home. Something simple, you can change the shape of your garden by using the turf, the grass that's already there, and removing it from one part of the bed and then putting it back against another edge. Yeah. So you've straight away changed the shape of your garden for this year. Yeah, it's just little differences make a big difference.
Do you recommend edging of any sort?
I do. Yes, I do. I putting an edge in what it does is it stops the grass from going over into the flower bed, and it really does define that edge. It does make a big difference. I wouldn't use anything like a timber log roll. They came in fashion and gone out very quickly because they just rot. Not for me personally, but there are some really good recycled material ones, and there are some really good metal edging ones. Which metal edges.
Those corten steel type ones.
That's right. Yeah, corten steel.
I imagine that's pretty expensive, isn't it?
It's not, and the thing, but there are a couple of products out there that are I would like to say DIY friendly. They are, if you do have, they've got some great videos on their packaging of how they'd install it. We have been asked to install that kind of edging before. We do ourselves use Corten steel, and we buy it in lengths from the manufacturer and weld it ourselves. But if you were to do it yourself, there's two companies on off the top of my head, EverEdge and Core Edge. And they clip together. They're a metre lengths. You can get them in various heights, various colours as well. So you can have the Corten, you can have different colours of metal. But it's you can have bends, you can have right angles. If you can. I would say majority of people would be able to do it themselves. So
Crikey. Even me.
Even you.
I don't think so.
The old spreadsheet king.
I just wondered with that edging then, if you've got steel edging or something, so you'd have to have it set down slightly lower than the edge of the grass, so when your mower goes over it doesn't obviously hit it. Crikey, I'm a donut.
Well,
I'll stick it up like that and got a buffer.
Yeah, keep you out the flower bed with the mower, keep you in. But what the edging is, I would always say go for 100mm edging.
Yeah.
And underneath that they have spikes on the underneath of them. So what you would do is you get your sharp spade, you would follow either a string line or lay your hose out. I like this one, using the garden hose. Mark out the edge that you'd like for your flower bed. You would run along with a sharp spade going directly down into the ground, just opening the ground up as you go. Clip all the edging together, and then lay it inside of that cut you've made, and then use a block of timber and a mallet and knock it into place. It's quite simple. It is quite simple, but it does
be done well.
But I think the 7 P's come in. Prior preparation, planning prevents piss poor performance. So but once you set it up, you can knock it in quite easy, in my view.
Bloody hell. Yeah, and it does make a difference, and it always looks really nice when you've got that edge, because I always find that the edges of mine either crumble away, and they don't then look straight, and then they usually don't have much grass on them anyway. It's usually like moss.
It's not defined. It really defines the edges between the two, and it stops the grass from then growing into that flower bed, having to do it again and again. So you have lower maintenance. Yeah. So you won't be doing it every year. So another top tip.
Yeah. And once again, with a reliable landscaper.
We will find one. We will find one.
Right. Okay. Moving on to our springtime marketing tips. Right. What are other stats that you need to keep? Right. The next one I've got down here is your CAC, your customer acquisition cost.
What'd you call me?
It's a load of old CAC. So this one is really useful, because what you're trying to do is establish how much does it actually cost for you to get a customer. And a lot of people don't actually know this or work this one out, but it gives you an idea of the efficiency of your marketing, because if you're finding out that it's costing you an awful lot of money to get one customer, then your marketing is not working very well. Now, a lot of these figures will change depending on the industry, but once you start tracking these figures, you'll see what the trend is in your industry. So you might find that it might be £100 to get a customer. It might be £200 to get a customer. Obviously, more specialist industries, where the jobs are bigger value and you do probably less of them, then the customer acquisition cost is going to be higher. But say something like with Bill's type work, where he gets lots of jobs and is turning them over, then you want to keep your customer acquisition costs as low as possible, because you're trying to be getting lots of leads from things like Google Ads and all your marketing activities. You want to know how much it costs you to get a customer, because once you know how much it costs you to get a customer, excuse me, then you start to have a choice as to how you spend your marketing budget in relation to acquiring a customer. So say, for example, if it is £100 to get a customer, you can then decide, well, is my £100 being effectively spent through Google Ads? Is it being effectively spent on Facebook ads on an email campaign or leafleting or whatever. So you do have a choice then, because what you could do is you might say, oh, 100 quid, I could give that 100 quid to someone or to another company who could act as a referral company for me. So they might be someone who, like, you know, an accountant. You could say, right, anytime someone comes in and they're looking for landscaping works or tree works, if you put them forward to me,
Yeah.
and we get a job out of it, there's 100 quid you can pay that person.
Very
so you
good.
know how much
Yeah.
you could actually pay someone for that referral.
Yes, I understand. Yeah.
And you know, it's like it gives you a budget, because often people don't know how much should I pay for a referral. Well, now you know how much it's costing you to get a client. So if you can then, you know, once again, if you know your customer acquisition cost is currently 100 quid, you know, the referring party might be happy with 50.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
you're immediately then reducing your costs. So that's one thing you want to have. The next one you want to have is your LTV, which is your lifetime value of each client. So what you want to try and work out is how much value does each client generate for you. And again, this is going to change depending on the type of business you work in. So some companies, I say like tree companies like Bill, you might find that he gets lots of repeat customers and they have lots of repeat work. Probably something like yours, they're more one-off jobs, maybe, so there's...
Yeah.
But the lifetime value might be higher because they do a lot of work in one hit.
Yeah.
So the lifetime might be shorter, but the value they derive is a lot. But what you want to try and do is to try and establish what that value is. So what you might have to do, for example, to know what a lifetime is for a client, because any client could, in theory, go on forever. Mm-hmm. But you might then have to say, well, okay, I need to sort of say the lifetime might be 1 year. So if they then don't use you, if you don't use them again within a year, you can say, right, they spent £2,000 within the year. That's the lifetime value for that client. So once you've got your lifetime value for the client, so if your lifetime value is, say, £5,000, if you've got a customer acquisition cost of £500, you can start to do ratios where you'll put, you know, express your LTV or your CAC as a percentage of the other. So like your customer acquisition cost or your lifetime value might be 3 times the customer acquisition cost. So let me get this right. So if you've got the lifetime value is 300 quid, customer acquisition cost is 100, you've got a 3-to-1 ratio there. So what you want to try and do once you've got that is to try and increase that ratio so that you know you're getting more value out of each client for the amount you spend to get that client. So you start then to look at it in terms of things like what can we do to try and drive more lifetime value, and what can we do to make our customer acquisition costs cheaper. And the other final stat with this, which is effectively my final stat, is your churn. And this is really important because, and especially, you know, customers don't stay with you forever, but you want to see how many new customers how many customers you lose each year. Because if you're losing customers each year, which everybody does, you've got to replace those just to get to where you were before, the same value. Because if you need 10 customers a year to make £1 million turnover, if 2 of those are dropping out, your turnover will drop. So you've got to be able to replace those 2 to keep your turnover up. So you need to know what your churn rate is, how many are actually dropping out in their lifetime. And once again, with this one, some clients will potentially could go on, you know, theoretically could go on forever. So they could buy once from you, and then, you know, they don't buy off you again for ages. But you have to call a day on them at some point. So you'll say, okay, if I don't get any more work with them out of a year, then I'll say they've dropped off the client list. Therefore, we've lost them as a client. So what you can try and then do is to try and reduce your churn rate, so you can review your clients, go back to those who you haven't engaged with for a long time.
Yeah.
Go back and say, is there anything we can do?
Yeah.
Give them some more information about your company. Give them, some special offer that will get them re-engaged and get them working again. And what you want to do is try and reduce that churn, because the lower the churn ratio is, the more efficient your marketing is, and it costs less to get you more customers or to replace the pipeline of those customers you're losing. So that's a really important one as well. So
that's it too. It's really interesting because there's so much to do. It should be done. As well. That's the thing, and it should be done.
Bloody loads of it, and it's hard, But it's like, if you can keep stats, they're just unbelievably useful.
Yeah, not only in the capacity of, you using themselves within the company, but say for example, I wanted to sell my company one day. Sitting in a room, being like, well, I've created a company that's gone from here to there, and then suddenly pull these out.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the value of my company is far greater because of this.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I know people that have sold their landscaping companies before, and effectively, you do get. You get the van, you get the old tools, you get the. It's like, well, you are buying a business, but that is what you're talking about is the business, and it's
yes. And if you can demonstrate that to a buyer and to say, well, look, our lifetime value we get out of our client is like £10,000 per customer. The acquisition cost to get each one is £100. Someone's got a lot more information about whether your company is worth it. Mm-hmm. And that will drive the value of your company up. So, I mean, that's a really good point, Ryan. If you're selling or looking to it, having those stats, it makes everything far more objective for a buyer to come in and to make decisions to say, oh, yeah, your company's better than someone else's.
Yeah. Yeah, I think also as well, going on that again. I mean, there's plenty of people. Well, I mean, stories I've heard. Not that I know, the stories I've heard of companies getting so far, getting to that stage where they're a bit bigger, and then suddenly it gets a bit too much, and then suddenly they get an advisor in, and it's like, well, for me, it's like if you start now with the things like this. I mean, the cash flow for one, that is just an absolute. Must, right? And it's if you've got that in place and suddenly it gets this big, and then it's like, whoa, hang on, the red line's always coming a bit too close. You get a financial advisor, they can just jump straight in and forward, right? Rather than having to reset, redo. By the time you do that, the love might have been lost. That it's like, if you do have these things in place now, there's nothing but good news. There's just nothing but good. Comes from it. So, interesting.
Right.
Interesting.
Okay, so we're getting towards the end of our time. So, Ryan, how would you wrap up and recommend a suitable sort of garden, sort of springtime activity schedule? What are the most important things that you would hit in your checklist of things if you're advising someone? What's the top stuff?
Oh, it's got to be the drainage. I said it already, but it's got to be the drainage. It's got to be that drainage, getting the acos cleaned out and ready to rock and roll, because it makes an awful bit of difference if you haven't done that. The other one is getting that garden shed. Everyone's been staring at their garden shed for however long. Get in the shed, get it emptied, take everything out, clear the whole thing out, organise everything on the grass on a nice day, put things back ready for the mowing season.
What about, one thing I was going to ask, what about stuff like sharpening tools? Because I remember once I was watching you, I think Rabbit was doing sharpening the tools. I am crap at sharpening. So how do you sharpen tools?
So, well, if you're sharpening a mower, you would say, let's use the example of a mower, because majority of people, that's what they would sharpen. For me, I would turn the mower on its side, turn it on to the side that the oil spout is on, so that it can be turned on its side. Once you do that, you can use you can either take the blade off the mower and take it to your local area, to local gardening shop to be sharpened, or you can put it onto the bench and sharpen yourself. What we use is a grinder with a flap disc, which is got a sandpaper flap disc.
Right, so you actually use a
grinding wheel, yeah.
A grinding wheel,
yeah,
on your drill or something.
No, not on the drill. On the grinding wheel on a grinder. So it's on a grinder, yeah.
Right.
So it's a 4-inch grinder or a 100mm grinder, yeah. So that's always the way I would sharpen it. But yeah, we sharpen everything.
You can use files.
You can use a file, but I mean, trust me, every time you hear, I mean, how many times last year did you hear something go underneath that mower? So I mean, the file you can do, yeah, but I would say take it in. Let me put it this way: take it in somewhere, get it sharpened, and then use a file halfway through the year. Because by the time it takes you to file it down, it might be a little bit too much.
Right. Okay. So that will get people generally sorted for spring, and you would recommend, if they want to do more heavy work, bigger garden work, landscaping, get on with it. And get in touch with not just you, but whoever.
Of course. I know. Do you know? I would say have a look around the garden. You know, that's sitting in them different places, like I said earlier. Having a look at the garden, having a look. Do I want to change anything? Do I need to? Am I unhappy about something in the garden? And if so, what are you unhappy about? And then after you've done that, had a walk around. Head to your local garden centre. Head to your local garden. Head to Caucus. Head to places.
You have to get them in there.
Oh yes, that's it. But that's right, absolutely. I mean, because it gives you inspiration. You can have a look and see what you want.
Gardens.
The one thing I would like to say before we go is, if you have a decorative stone edge against the house, a French drain, and you're looking at that French drain, and there's bits growing up through it. Over the time, debris has been cleaned, swept into that area. A very quick and simple change is getting your wheelbarrow, digging out all of the stone, getting all the stone out, digging out all of that, all your French drain along the house, and reintroducing new stone, different colour. It will just make such a difference, and it will help with the drainage.
Help with the drainage as well.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
excellent.
Gone drainage mad.
Drainage man, yeah, excellent. Right, okay. Me, where do I go? Finish then with this marketing stuff. So I will be saying, keep all those stats that I've mentioned. Leads, marketing spend, number of quotes, jobs won, your CAC, your LTV, your churn. Seems like you've got problems, doesn't it? and keep them consistently. Really, there's not that many there that you have to do. So keep them consistently. Set your own trends and see where the figures go, and look to improve on those trends and those figures, because then it will make your marketing spend go further. You'll get more leads, and if you get more leads into the pipeline, which is a bit how the Open Door Digital guys were talking about before, if you get more leads in, you will get more jobs. It just stands to reason. And then you can start to look at things like, how do you improve your conversion process from the numbers of sales you get out, the number of quotes. There's all techniques and things you can do there. But ultimately, the more leads you can get is going to go through to the more jobs you get. So more in at the top means more out of the bottom. Keep doing it, track it, you won't regret it.
Absolutely not.
Like you won't regret listening to this Outside Crowd podcast. So on that one, we will thank everyone who's been listening. Delighted to have you. We're going to be putting a bit more content on the Instagram stuff, so a few tips from all of us and all that sort of stuff coming through.
We've got some new people coming on as well.
Got some new guests coming on, hopefully.
We do.
Got a few lined up for a good year. So apart from that, any final thoughts, Ryan?
My final thought, if I may have a moment, is that the smaller Tesco's do not have the pulled pork sandwiches that they do in the big Tesco's. And I don't know if this is a thing. I have not tried one of these yet. Everyone else has spoken about them. Apparently the smaller ones don't have them in. I found that out today. Bit peeved. But look, I'm going to email Tesco's tomorrow. But that's the only thing I've got.
And we get them on the podcast.
That's it. He can explain.
And apart from that, well, that's one we needed to hear. And thank you for that. Brilliant. And from me, that's about it, really. Thank everyone for listening, and we'll see you again on another Outside Crowd podcast.